Welcome back to the Career Growth Podcast.
I'm your host, Kalis, and we're going to be talking about marketing internships and a few tips on how to get your supervisor to recognize your efforts and turn it into a full time job. Here to share her insights with us is Chloe Sims, our guest from retail design agency Ripple. How are you doing, Chloe?
Hi, how are you? I'm glad to be here. I've just got out of an SEO meeting, so this is definitely a lot more interesting to be doing, I think.
I can relate to the SEO meeting bit. So I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. So, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at Ripple?
Yeah, so I've only been at Ripple for around 3 months now, but it's a very exciting role. I done fashion marketing as my background and my degree, but I think I did eventually get into retail. I done a lot of tech and garden and leisure buy-in after my uni experience, but getting into retail again has been quite exciting. And yeah, Ripple is an end-to-end retail design agency. So we have our own in-house manufacturing shop as well. So I'm learning all about things like MDF wood panels and laser cutting machines, which I never thought I would, but I'm here, I'm doing it. So it's really, really exciting. So working on strategy at the minute. So it's all guns blazing, all go, go, go.
Awesome. Why did you develop such an interest in retail, and how did that inspire to enter your career in marketing?
So I am the stereotypical girl who loves shopping. My mum had always hated it. It was always funny. We used to go shopping and hide all of our shopping in the boot from the rest of the family because they would just judge the amount that we were shopping. Um, but I think marketing has an influence on every single aspect of your commercial experience. And it always made me laugh. I used to shout at my mum for getting tricked into the tactics of marketing, like the point of purchase displays, and I was like, no, they're sucking you in. So I think the psychological aspect of retail was always more interesting to me than anything else as well. And then just the layout of the stores, the displays, um, yeah, how they could eventually trick you into buying a purchase.
That's a really interesting take because I'm pretty sure I shared the same, view of marketing growing up. Do you think that view has changed? Do you still think it's just a way to get people to buy your stuff? Do you think there's more to it?
I did used to have the cynical approach of marketing before I got invested in it, in terms of my education and actual experience. But I think going forward, it's definitely more of a consumer driven area now. I did used to think that marketers had all the power, but definitely not now in this day and age of multiple choice. And I think it's quite exciting that consumers have so much choice now. It can be a bit overwhelming, and I guess that's our job as marketeers to try and make that choice a bit easier for them. Obviously, there does need to be a focus on profit. We wouldn't be in our roles if there wasn't profit coming in. But I think it's about making the sustainable effort to be able to influence the customer as their needs change.
It's a very interesting point because our approaches as marketing professionals has to adapt as quickly as the landscape adapts around us. How have your approaches changed over the years since you started?
So I think one thing is not getting overwhelmed by the amount of changes that is happening. I used to try and keep up to date and on top of all of these new apps, new threads, everything. Threads is literally playing in my mind constantly now. I'm like, I don't like it. I don't want to like it. Um, but I think what's really important is,
Relatable.
yeah, I'm like, not another one. I can barely keep on top of what I had for dinner last night, never mind a new app. Um, but I think what's really important is actually drilling down what your customer wants and where they are. And I think that's something that I always like to hone back in on. And sometimes getting lost in all of this sea of apps and new trends and new things that people are clued into, it can make you lose your direction a bit. So definitely just sticking with where your customers are, what they want to be seeing, and how they want to see it as well. I think that's really important.
Agreed. So you gave me like a very, how do you say, a relatable point about the tools, as I felt pretty overwhelmed recently as well because, social media is pretty variegated as it is, and you have to adapt a different tone, a different like approach for each. So, how did you approach it when threads came up? What was the conversation like at your office?
To be honest, well, AI is the big hot topic in our office at the minute. We actually haven't implemented threads because we've realized that's not where our customers are. Um, but I downloaded it for a day and then I was like, no, I was like, it's just too much of a thought process to even put my thoughts elsewhere. I think Threads is exciting. And obviously, like TikTok now, they have like their text speeches coming out. They're adapting because of Threads. Um, but yeah, it's not for me.
Fair enough. Do you prefer Twitter by any chance?
No,
This is not
it's not Twitter
the air,
anymore. Is it
off the
Twitter
record.
anymore? I can't keep up. I can't keep up.
It's
Honestly,
X.
it's X.
It's X now.
I
I
don't want
know.
to hear about my exes. I don't.
I really like every time I open like the folder with all my apps in it, my social media apps, I keep looking for Twitter. My eyes just cannot see the X,
No.
the logo. That I missed the little blue bird. I
Twitter were doing something.
yes,
Yeah, exactly. But they were doing something right before with their like
yeah, they
recognition,
were.
weren't
They
they?
were. They had a thing going for them, which was
Yeah, exactly.
currently you're a marketing manager. So you're in a decision making role. But do you recall the time early in your career when things were a bit messy and you felt like you couldn't understand what was going on? And then one day, something just clicked and everything fell into place and you were like, I'm actually kind of good at my job. Did you ever have a moment like that? Your first success story?
Oh, my first, right. So this is the thing. I've never really had the like aha moment. Um, I've just always kind of had this integral knowing that whatever's for me won't pass me. And that's just something that I've always lived by. I think I was always creative, always, from a young age. But my mum always said, she's like, you've got the brains to go with it. So you need to find something that will, well, she said, I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I should blow my own trumpet. I watched the Barbie movie at the weekend. I will blow my own trumpet. I have the
Yes.
brains. Yeah.
Yes. We support all Barbies in this
Yes,
house.
I'm a Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Yes.
um, so I think, yeah, I had the brains to go with it. So I needed to find something that would coincide both the creative and the like brainy aspect, if that's what you want to call it. But business and all of that has been something that's always interested me from a commercial side. So I think marketing and all the avenues that you can go down, don't get me started on all the avenues, it's just a minefield, isn't it? Having that opportunity to be able to explore different fields in marketing, I think that's why I chose as a degree specifically. But I remember in my placement year, I was actually supposed to do product fit and digital innovation, but then COVID came along and they cancelled that. So they offered me a position as a buy-in admin assistant. But I always still talked about my love for marketing, and I basically hounded people to try and speak to all of the marketing people in the company. And I think my passion for marketing really came about by having those conversations and speaking to those people and people with influence within the business. And it was whenever like one of the buyers came to me and asked a marketing question, I was like, do you know what, maybe I am worth listening to about this stuff. So I guess that could be a little bit of a leeway into why I thought I was good for it.
I would say that's when you know you've made it. When people come to you for advice and for answers,
Yeah.
that's when you really know. You become the wise old owl, the wise old marketing owl.
At 24, the wise old marketing.
Honestly, between you as the wise old marketing owl and the Duolingo owl, who would win in a fight?
Oh, are we chatting physical here?
Oh yeah, physical
Oh,
fight, like wing
100%.
wing to wing
Oh,
combat.
wing to wing. Oh, right. If a beak could get involved.
Wing to wing and beak combat, maybe a foot.
There we go. It's me, 100%. I could do a chicken dance. Oh, it's not even, is it a chicken? No, it's a bird. Did I say I had brains earlier?
I thought that was I thought that was fantastic. um, I think, yeah, my bet's on the chicken dance, personally.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I'd bet on that. I'm on your team.
thank you.
So, we spoke about your success, but it's time to talk about the downside. I'm sorry, but it's time to talk about the bad stuff.
Yeah.
What don't you miss about your early career?
I mean, it's all about balance, isn't it? We have to appreciate the bad, realize the good. I think, do you mean my earliest previous career, like in terms of internships?
I would say, like, when you started out in marketing
Oh, okay.
specifically, especially when you were getting introduced to the field, was there anything that shook you a bit? Or were you like, "Oh God, I have to do this? I don't know how to do this. This is the worst thing ever."
Yeah.
It's okay, you can be honest. This is a safe space.
Safe
This
space,
is a safe
that's good. We
space.
love a safe space. Um, yeah, so basically, I started out with my internships because everyone kept telling me experience, experience, experience. And I was like, all right, okay. Felt a bit overwhelmed in my first couple of weeks in uni because everyone was like starting to get internships already. And I was like, wow, I was like, I can't afford to do an internship. I was like, I have no one supporting me. I was like, I need to get the ball rolling with it. And I took on 2 internships in my first year of uni and a 20-hour work week as well on top of full-time uni. So it was a lot. And I think one thing that I didn't appreciate was the actual effort that you had to go to in an internship. I think you read a lot of horror stories and you do expect the worst, but I think sometimes that's probably best to go in with that mindset because then it can only get better from there. But I appreciate that a lot of companies can't necessarily pay their staff. Well, you're technically not staff, but I think for me it was not that I was a dumping ground, but it was kind of like you couldn't get on with strategic objectives for what you wanted to get out of your internship. It was kind of like initially that was the incentive and that's what got you in, and I was there 2 days a week and it was really exciting, but a lot of the time it was a lot of ad hoc activities that kind of got you out of what you wanted to achieve from the internship, so it was a bit harder. So yeah, I think not being able to actually achieve the full objectives that you initially set out as part of your internship, be it the employer or yourself, because of everything else that came on top of it, be it ad hoc activities or things that they needed done.
So the thing is, we have countless marketing interns who really want to enter the field. They don't really know the difference between the practical and theoretical applications. We know people who've studied marketing, but they get an internship and they don't really know how to utilize the knowledge they've learned. Then, on the other hand, there are people who have the skills but aren't even aware that they're vital components of that practical application. What are your thoughts on this? How would you differentiate? How would you identify the differences between the two?
So I actually think they're quite interjoined. I had the privilege of being able to do quite practical based modules in university. So I took it upon myself to study a lot on the companies that I could see myself working for, or were actually just quite inspired by their marketing efforts already, or else I felt that they needed a lot more marketing efforts. It was easier to do that sometimes. But I think being able to do that and apply it into real life examples was always so beneficial for me, because having that basis of understanding set me in really good stead for coming into the actual field of marketing in real life. not in real life, but you know what I mean, in the working field. I think like trying to keep up with all the new platforms, as we had mentioned, I think, yes, that's great, but obviously there is a big foundational knowledge of marketing, and appreciating the history of it and everything that it's compounded into as it is today is really essential.
Agreed 100%. The other issue with it is, even though it's not directly marketing related, it is still a concern. It's that a lot of people who, go for their first job interviews, they might read, how they could prepare for certain, interview questions, what to expect. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be their first experience. It could be a bad experience. But do you have any, tips for them, like how they could approach an interview for a marketing internship? In what ways does that differ? What tips would you give? Is there anything they need to prepare in advance?
So I think a lot of the time, like I love interviews, to be honest. I think going in with the mind frame, you might not think that after this one, but I think going in with the mind frame that it's a two-way opportunity as well. You know, you have to understand that if you're going to invest in this role, you want to be able to see yourself there as well and get as much value as out of it as they will out of you, because especially starting out so early in your career, you want to be able to learn as much as you can to compound on that going forward. I think a lot of the time people get out of university or out of an internship and they're like, I need to get a job. It doesn't matter what it is in, as long as I get marketing experience. But you might just be sitting doing admin work the whole time. And if you don't have people who are willing to invest in you and your development, I think it can jeopardize you and probably waste a bit of your time in your career. So I think definitely whenever you're looking for roles, everything is transferable as well. It might not be the sector that you dreamed of, but everything is transferable. Marketing at the end of the day is what it says on the tin. You can apply it in whatever field that you're in. But I think look at the company values. I think that's really important. Um, do they align with yours? Because you know you want to be integral to the work that you're doing. Um, and I think don't be scared if you don't have enough practical experience. I think you can't teach passion, um, but you know if you go into that interview, show your enthusiasm, show that you really are enthusiastic about the job, and that you have all these great ideas. You might not have experience to back up that you can do them, but you know they can teach you all that. They can teach you the basics. But if you have the enthusiasm behind you, you know, someone could come in with a ton of experience, but if they're not passionate about the brand, why would, you know, if you owned your own company, think about it that way. Um, would you want someone working for you who isn't passionate about what you're doing and what they're going to be doing every single day? I think that's really important. Um, and then drill all your experience down to tangible results. I think having quantifiable figures and efforts and outcomes, basically do the point evidence explain. That's how I do all of my interviews. Previously, having like tangible examples, that's really really important. And ooh, what else? Just have fun. I think, to be honest, you know, interviews, people can get so hyped up of them, and I do appreciate that a lot of people do get nervous for them. But I think, you know, if you're confident enough about what you're speaking about, then if they throw something your way, you know, interviewers don't care if you stumble or you need a minute. Like, if we're human at the end of the day, I think it's important to show that as well. Like, yes, AI might be coming for our jobs, but you know, you can't fake a personality, and personalities are what make marketing, I think. Um, and just a bonus one, if they say don't prepare anything, I definitely still would, and I would cater it to their branding and make sure that you know all about their target customer and if they have any developments in the pipeline, and reach out to people on LinkedIn because they'll already be speaking to you before about you beforehand in the office, and that'll get all the generation going. That's what I would do.
That's a great bit of advice, actually. Even if they tell you like don't prepare anything, sometimes we do get surprised because we say like, "Hey, don't prepare anything,"
Yeah.
and then somebody shows up and they're like, "Hey, so I just thinking, how about this design?" And we're like, "Whoa,
Yeah,
initiative.
exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah. It shows initiative.
That's cool." That kind of sounded like a boomer, like I'm a boomer, but hey, that's cool. Well done. Good
10
job.
out of 10.
Uh,
I don't know what the kids say these days, so I can't even.
I've given up. I have no idea. I just got like someone like this kid, this 23-year-old corrected me because I called it Instagram. I said, "So did you post it on Instagram?" And he was like, "Oh, he's such a boomer. We don't call it Instagram. We say IG." And I was like,
I
straight
didn't
in the
even know
mouth.
that. You're such a
I know.
boomer.
I was like, I didn't know that was a rule. Okay, clearly we're learning new things about ourselves in this
we are.
podcast. It's revolutionary.
It's educational. We
This
love
feels
it.
like a therapy session.
It does.
This is what it's like. This is what marketing's like, people. Just letting everyone know. This feels like I'm dissuading them.
And it's cheap.
Sounds like a warning, more like
It
it.
does. But this is cheaper than therapy. So, win-win.
It's free.
Yeah.
It's free. Yay. Just complain to your fellow professionals. That's what we do. It's like Sad Marketing Humans Club. Sorry, that
I
was-
follow all of those Instagram pages or IG pages, sorry.
like guilty pleasure, but same.
Yeah, like happiness HR, best
Okay.
page ever.
So an interesting wait, I keep saying it's interesting, but the thing is marketing is very interesting,
Very.
surprisingly, because there's a lot more to it. You have to analyze people's behaviors. There's a lot of data involved, different types, different forms, different sources. You have to predict things, you have to analyze things, you have to get used to tons of tools and keep up with trends, and you have to be really flexible. You have to adapt like that. So personally, what like these are all challenges that anyone would have to overcome if they want to have a fulfilling career, but like personally, what was the thing that you struggled with the most and how did you address it?
I think in my early career, it was always quite overwhelming to hear what other people were doing. I've always been a bit of an overachiever. I think I got that because it was always just I grew up in a single parent household and I was first generation university to get a degree. So I kind of seen education and getting on the career ladder quite early as my way out. Not out, but to advance and to have the security blanket and net that I never probably had before. So I always put a lot of pressure on myself, and hearing what other people were doing constantly overwhelmed me quite a bit. I put a lot of my pressure on education, a lot of pressure on myself during education, and I kind of spiraled down into like a depression. So I struggled with that for about 5 years, but I'm positive now. It's all good. I've learned how to manage it, and I think one thing I would say, and advice that I would give, is the loudest lion doesn't always catch the most prey. Yes, you might be looking on LinkedIn and people are doing X, Y, Z, but you know, sometimes it's just a token of what they're doing, and it's just a scratch on the surface. So if one thing I could say to people taking on internships now is try your best not to compare. I know it's easier said than done, but it's so important to look after yourself and focus on your own path.
That was a really great piece of advice, Chloe. Thank you so much for sharing it with us and thank you for joining us today. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have and we got to close. So, for everyone listening, if you would like to follow Chloe, you check her out at.
So my LinkedIn is Chloe at Ripple, and my Instagram is Chloe Sims with 2 E's on the Chloe. People always get annoyed at that, but I'm like, it's different. It's different. Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it, and
No worries.
hopefully
And you know what?
someone
You
can
gotta you
take.
gotta find ways to stand out. Yeah. Add as
Yeah,
many E's as you
exactly.
want, honestly. Go for it. We support as many E's as you want.
It's called marketing.
Oh no, I did it's called marketing. Exactly. Thank you. Standing out, building a brand. Part two. Chloe will be speaking on her Instagram
Woo!
in the next episode. Great. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you with us today, and hope you have a great day.
Thank you.